Though my pocketbook is empty and my heart is full of pain, I'm 1,000 miles away from home, just waiting for a train. Yodel-lady, hodel-lady. Hi, I'm Maurice Tani, and this is another episode of Acoustic Guitar's Campfire Songs, a series where we take a classic, familiar song and work out a simple single guitar arrangement suitable for a beginner to tackle or a more advanced player to use as a starting point for a fresh look at an old song. Considering his places in the country music, rock and roll, blues, and songwriter halls of fame, Jimmie Rodgers might easily be considered a common ancestor of the amalgamation of genres that today we call Americana. Over the course of an incredibly short working musical career, about 5 years between 1927 and his death from tuberculosis in 1933 at the age of 35, Rodgers made a massive mark on American popular music. Waiting for a Train was a big hit in 1929, just as the Wall Street crash was bringing on the Great Depression. Though credited to Rodgers, the song's roots can be traced back to the 18th century in England as a broadside ballad entitled Standing on a Platform. Versions of it appeared in songbooks over the years. Rodgers began singing his own version in the mid-1920s as a loose approximation based on the few lines that he could recall. When he recorded the song in late 1928, he and producer Ralph Peer rewrote it to fit Rodgers' style. The song was in public domain at that point, and they decided that they had changed it enough that they would copyright it under Rodgers' name. It became Rodgers' second best-selling song after Blue Yodel, also known as T for Texas. Waiting for a Train has been covered many times by major artists, often with their own twists. Rodgers himself recorded several versions. The original record, done with a band, is a sort of slow Dixieland blues style in G. He also did a more up-tempo solo version in C for a short film called The Singing Brakeman, which is arguably one of the first music videos. These two versions are as different from each other as any of the subsequent versions by other artists. The point here is that there's no single correct way to play this song. Waiting for a Train is basically a bluesy 8-bar chord progression that happens 3 times, but with a slightly different ending on the third pass through. We're going to do this in the key of C, making the chords all quite easy to play in first position open cowboy style. The chords we're using, in order of appearance, are C, a G7, and I also use a second form of G7, which adds this F here low, a C7, an F, A7, and a D7. I'm using a bouncy shuffle strum here for the song. And the first bar is a C and a G7. So this is where I'm using that second form of G7, which kind of works kind of like a alternating bass. Rather than I'm using so the basic 8-bar form is all around the water tanks, waiting for a train, 1,000 miles away from home, sleeping in the rain. And that ends on this G7, which sets us up, it's a 5 chord, sets us up to come back around to play the same progression one more time. I walked up to the brakeman to give him a line of talk. He said, if you've got money, I'll see that you don't walk. Now the last time is the same up until we get to the last two bars. I haven't got a nickel, not a penny I can show. Get off, you railroad bum. And he slammed the boxcar door. So instead of a bar of D7 and a bar of G7, we have a single bar that has both the D7 and the G7, and then a bar of C, which brings us back to the top again. We also use those last four bars as the intro for the song. Oh, and by the way, the yodel. The yodel is a signature Jimmie Rodgers move. Some use it in the intro, some in between the verses. Some use a 2-bar yodeling phrase, others use a 4-bar phrase, some omit it entirely. I'm using it here as a 2-bar phrase between the verses, partly because it's outside of my box, and also it's just fun to do. But your version is your call. Yodel-lady, hodel-lady. And don't even get me started on Jimmie Rodgers' train whistle technique. You can check that out in that video I was talking about. It's insane. But let's play the song. Well, all around the water tanks, waiting for a train, 1,000 miles away from home, sleeping in the rain. I walked up to a brakeman to give him a line of talk. He said, if you've got money, I'll see that you don't walk. I said, I haven't got a nickel, not a penny I can show. He said, get off, you railroad bum. And he slammed the boxcar door. Yodel-lay, yodel-lay. He put me off in Texas, a state I dearly love. The wide open spaces all around me, the moon and the stars up above. Nobody seems to want me or to lend me a helping hand. I'm on my way from Frisco, I'm going back to Dixieland. Though my pocketbook is empty and my heart is full of pain, I'm 1,000 miles away from home, just waiting for a train. Yodel-lady, hodel-lady.